Hello. Welcome to the Design-Based Learning Podcast.
I'm Mike,
I'm Henry.
and this is our first episode. And why do we have a first episode? I was wondering.
It happened something yesterday, yeah.
Tell me what happened yesterday that led us to this journey.
Yesterday I went into a school to do some observation and consultancy work.
Okay.
A bunch of teachers are trying to implement design-based learning into their teaching. And they come up to me with a question, Henry, how do I know that I'm doing a good job?
And how will they know that they're doing a good job?
Honestly, they have no idea on how they can improve, where it went well, where it went wrong. They have no idea on how they can improve. And that gives me some headache at that time. I'll be like, how do I help them to measure their performance?
And I know you had a headache because you came in this morning and we did our usual morning coffee session. You said, we have a challenge to solve.
Yeah, in our coffee session in the morning, I was like, Mike, I need help.
Okay.
Something went wrong in the classroom yesterday. Not went wrong, but like I need some help on creating some framework to help teachers to measure their performance.
Yeah, what we found out was mostly teachers were focusing on themselves rather than looking at the students, right?
Yeah, it's very hard sometimes for teachers to just look at every angle on how they perform. And it's actually easier to look at a student's perspective on how they behave in the classroom and using the behaviors as an indicator to showcase whether the teacher is doing a good job or not.
Yeah.
And that is an easy approach to measure.
Okay, so that's why we have to look at the students' behaviors. We decided, hey, let's make a list of all the student behaviors we think are relevant and that are good measures of whether or not design-based learning is being implemented in the classroom, right?
Yeah. And we came up with 5 different students' behaviors.
We came up with more than 5.
More than 5, yeah, actually loads.
But we
filtered down to 5.
Yeah, we decided these 5 are probably the most important measures of student behavior in the classroom, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Shall we go through the first one?
Yeah, go first.
The first one is students' posture. What is it about, Mike?
Posture, I guess, you have students look attentive, lean forward, that their body language is showing that they are ready for learning. So they're leaning towards their classmates, looking at the teacher. I think that. What else would there be?
And also they're leaning forward in a group activity. So when they're working groups in their own island, they are all engaged, hands on deck, ready to do something together. But however, when you see students like sitting back, just like leaning sort of backwards and cross their hand and falling a little bit asleep, there's some problem in your teaching lesson, like there's some problem in your activity or the way you teach. So I think it's an easy indicator to see whether students are enjoying the lesson or not in there.
Yeah, that's a good indicator. I would also say that you can easily tell when a student is from the posture, from the body language, whether or not they are engaged in the lesson. Right?
Yeah, and just simple as just leaning forward or sitting back is something quite easy to see in the classroom.
So teachers have to keep their eyes out for the body language.
You have to observe your kids at all times, whether they're doing it or not, or whether they're enjoying or not. Can you spice up your classroom if their posture is different? So observing, I think, is a core skill of being a DBL facilitator.
Okay. How about, what's the second one?
Second one is about the movement in the classroom.
Wait a minute, you want students to be moving in the classroom?
100%. You have to move all the time if you are running a DBL
all
lesson.
the time?
All the time. You don't even sit down in a DBL lesson normally.
Okay, enlighten our audience. What do you think that means?
So the principle of DBL learning, it's about peer learning. And it's all about creativity and problem solving. So when we stand up, actually oxygen goes up to your brain, and that's when creativity starts coming. And the idea of standing up is when you do work standing up, you're creating things on the wall, you're posting things on the wall, you're creating something with the group mate. And in a design-based learning approach, you are inviting people to come to see your artwork you're creating and give you some feedback or give you some ideas on how to improve on the things you're generating.
Yeah, I know. I mean, sometimes teachers will say, well, the classrooms are very small, right? And the desks are very tight, and there's no room for movement in an ordinary Hong Kong classroom. That being said, there is room on the walls, right? So we get pieces of flip charts, large canvases that we can post on the walls or in other places that students can stand up and work around the walls rather than just stick to their desks, correct?
Yeah. So just switching how students are moving in the classroom already can help teachers to have a better engagement in
Yeah.
the classroom. Because imagine students sitting all day,
Yeah.
they need to have something different in the classroom. And when DBL lesson comes, it's a completely different vibe, and then it will be a better learning experience for the kids. Oh, I get to stand up and work with my teammates in a different situation. And
Okay.
they are more inviting of others to give feedback
Yeah.
and learn together from
Okay.
different groups
So
by
yeah.
visualizing things on the
So
wall.
they see what first they work together in their own groups, probably standing up, and then they comment on other people's work and they learn from each other.
Yeah, it's called show and tell actually.
Yeah.
If you give a tour out,
Yeah.
so we show people what this is about, and then they give an idea on how they can improve. So it's like a gallery walk. Every student get an opportunity to see what others are working on too.
That's good. That's
So
good.
yeah, inviting others. So movement in the classroom is something you can see whether you
Yeah.
are doing a good job or
Okay,
not.
so a teacher has to make sure there is enough movement. What's the third?
Third, a student's reflection on the biggest learning.
Okay, and how does that happen?
It's really about saving time by the end of the lesson for students to do some reflection. Reflection is a big part of design-based learning because it is focusing on a personal discovery journey for a student in the design-based learning curriculum. So save time at the end, as simple as a 5-minute. Just ask students what is your biggest learning, so they can write it down, and you can have those collected, and then you know how to improve on your next lesson.
Yeah, so it's just 5 minutes reflection, right? What's your biggest takeaway?
Yeah, all feelings as well.
So it's like it's easy as I mean, I think I used to do this where you just have a nice, 1/4, A6, I guess what you would say, and then the student can just write down what they've learned in the lesson today, and the teacher can collect it, right?
Yeah, and these data are actually so important. Often when I work with teachers, they don't even know what students think about the lesson. They've been running this lesson the same for their entire teaching career. But we are innovators, right? We want to improve every single time, and we need data to improve.
Yeah.
And these are crucial elements from kids that can produce by the end of the lesson to make you know that how we can improve our next lesson. So it's just like product development, right?
Right.
You want to get your iPhone out and let user think about what to improve on, what they
Right.
don't like about it, and then you have these data to help you to improve on your next iPhone. So it's same methodology when it comes to teaching, and I think the reflection is a great indicator
Yeah.
on whether a teacher is doing a good job
And
or not.
the teacher gives them a grade on that, right?
No.
Kidding.
It's a personal discovery journey, right? So there's no
Okay.
grades in there.
All right. And then what's the fourth one?
The fourth one, it's students' discussion time versus teaching time.
Okay.
Yeah, you got some principles about this one.
Yeah, well, mostly I would say that teachers should only be talking 20% of the time, right? And the rest of the time is students talking among themselves in the group, not students talking back to the teacher. I mean, okay, they can ask questions, but the idea is students are interacting among their group members and with other groups where the task engages them. So the teacher sets up the task and then they do it. But you have to give them, you have to get a timer, like 5 minutes. Okay, work on this task for 5 minutes, and then let's stop and then let's reflect and look what we've done and then move forward.
Yeah, and a principle of design-based learning as well is peer learning, right? Very strong element of that. And creating new knowledge together. So when kids are sharing their experience, sharing their knowledge, sharing their skills together in this particular work. So here, it's about time for letting them to explore knowledge together as a team. So when teachers are spoon-feeding a lot of knowledge in there, we know that is not a good way to facilitate a DBL lesson. But rather, we should let kids to explore their learnings by discussion, by creating new knowledge, by sharing things together. And that's why it's a bit different to traditional teaching, where 80% of time is teacher-led, but actually now students should be leading the learnings, and they should share their learnings to their peers.
Yeah.
So it's 80% students and 20% teacher.
Yeah, so it's all activity, discussion,
Yeah.
movement within the group.
I would say teacher, that 20%, you use it for giving instructions,
Yeah.
a bit of theory, and debrief.
Yeah,
Right,
very
and
important.
encouragement for students as well.
Yeah,
And
to
that's
s-
pretty much it for
To set up
for
the
DBLS.
framework first, and then to set up what are the main tasks within the lesson that need to be accomplished, right?
Yeah, so one more thing I observed yesterday as well, the length of an activity time. So sometimes teacher couldn't control that yesterday. So if we could talk about a 40-minute activity, that's way too long. We need to break it down like a little puzzle. So can we do it in 5 minutes and do it in chunks so students have bite-sized learning throughout there and giving more challenging point for
So
students.
timers are very important. You should have a kitchen timer or have an online timer where students can see what's going on. That helps a lot. All right, what's the last one? The last, but we think it's the most important, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's most important and often forgotten in the classroom.
Sometimes, but yeah, usually. Yeah, and I mean, we all say it. You should see smiles in the classroom. You should see students smiling.
And it's one of the biggest indicator whether you are doing a good job or not. If you can see smiles in students' face, whether it's a student-student approach, whether they're working in the groups, they're smiling, they're laughing about different things they created, or to teacher, or they're giving like a little smile to the teacher, indicating it's a good job or not. So I think don't forget, like educators, we're here to inspire children and also give fun to them at the same time and give them a very enjoyable experience on their learning.
Yeah, because learning is much more effective when kids are enjoying it. When kids realize that they have ownership, and that they're part of the learning experience. That they're making choices for their own growth in learning. I mean that's the thing. So it can't be a burden. So class is really quite difficult, especially when you're in school early in the morning all the way till like afternoon, and everything seems like a slog, like it's so difficult. But a bit of laughter, and then giving them ownership when the teachers are making sure that the students are enjoying what they're trying to do and that they realize that there's meaning in the tasks, they will smile, they will enjoy. I mean, a bit of humor is always good, but we also have to enjoy the hard work that's done.
Yeah, and I would say how that activity can give a bit more laughter and fun interactions in them, how to make your activity a bit more challenging or a little twist in your activity that can spice up some laughter and fun in the activity. So it's not too ordinary, but actually it's good enough challenge for students to feel like they accomplished something and they feel happy about it.
That's right. So let's recap. So what are the 5 things we are talking about? Remember, we still have the challenge. We have to not quantify, but we have to make this measures practical for teachers to use for us as a self-evaluation tool. And that's our next challenge, I would say.
But let's recap on the 5 things we think students' behaviors that can indicate whether teachers is doing a good job or not. First one is students' posture. All right, make sure they're leaning forward, in the classroom.
The second one is making sure that there's movement in the classroom. The students are moving, just not just movement for the sake of movement, but movement where it allows them to showcase their learning with their peers.
And the third one is students' reflection on their biggest learning. So whether you have safe time at the end of the lesson, and how you apply students' reflection into your next lesson to improve. So collecting data from students to improve is crucial as well.
And then the next one is the 80-20, 80% students talking, 20% teacher talking.
And lastly, laughter in the classroom.
Smile.
Don't forget to smile, and laughter in the classroom is so important to measure whether you did a good job or not in your teaching.
Our best job is to inspire students to enjoy what they're doing.
So a bit of smile, always a good thing.
A little bit of a smile.
Okay, let's end the podcast with a little smile.
All right. So this is the end of the DBL podcast.
I'll see you next time. Goodbye.